The laughter hit first. Is that thing even legal to park here? Looks like it runs on hope. Jake Sullivan froze with his mop still in his hands as the CEO's voice rang across the parking lot. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, raising her glass. The future of transportation. Fingers pointed. Phones lifted. 50 powerful people laughed at the same rusted Mustang Jake had driven to work every day for 15 years. Hey, someone called out. Is that yours, Janitor? Jake didn't answer. His jaw tightened. He stared at the car. Faded paint, crooked door, a body everyone saw as trash. They didn't see the night spent rebuilding it. They didn't hear his wife's voice in the engine. They didn't know what lived under that hood. The CEO smirked. Go on, she said. Why don't you show us if it even runs? For a moment, Jake considered walking away, staying invisible. Then something inside him snapped. He stepped forward, slid into the driver's seat, and turned the key. The laughter died instantly. What came next wasn't noise, it was power. Smooth. Impossible. Live. Faces drained of color. A champagne glass shattered on the asphalt. Jake shut the engine off, stepped out, and walked back inside without a word, leaving the most powerful people in the company staring at a car they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives laughing at. If you want stories where arrogance collapses and truth hits hard, subscribe now to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. 'Cause what happens next changes everything. The engine's impossible echo still lingered in the air long after Jake walked back inside. But outside, the CEO's polished smile had collapsed into a tight, brittle line. Victoria Hayes watched the rusted Mustang as if it had insulted her personally. Around her, the executives whispered in panic, the laughter they'd enjoyed minutes ago now curdling into fear. Find out what that was, Victoria hissed under her breath to Brad, her most loyal and most vicious lieutenant. Brad nodded, jaw tight. I'll handle him. But Jake wasn't looking at them. As he pushed his mop across the lobby floor again, the humiliation he'd tasted earlier mixed with something colder, resolve. What they didn't know was that the engine's roar had awakened more than shock. It had awakened memory, purpose, and a wound that had never healed. That night, after the building emptied and the city lights burned low, Brad approached him near the janitor's closet. Whatever stunt you pulled today, Brad said, leaning close. Drop it. Don't make trouble you can't handle. Jake didn't even blink. I'm not the one who should be worried. Brad's smile faltered. People weren't supposed to talk back to him, especially not janitors. The next morning the consequences arrived. Victoria summoned Jake to her office, the space wide enough to hold 10 of him. She stood behind her desk like a judge waiting to pass sentence. You embarrassed this company, she said sharply. And you embarrassed me. Jake stayed silent. I'm giving you a chance, she continued. Sell me that engine or you're gone. It's not for sale, Jake said calmly. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Everything is for sale. Don't be stupid. That was when Jake finally looked up. You don't know what that engine cost me. And you'll never understand it. Her face flushed with anger. Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. Jake walked out without another word. But that was her first mistake. And not her last. Word spread fast. The executives who'd laughed at him the day before now looked uneasy. Something about that engine unsettled them. Something about the way Victoria reacted made them nervous. And something in Jake's silence made them feel watched. Jake didn't linger. He drove home to his daughter's small apartment, where photos of his late wife, Sarah, still lined the mantel. He touched her handwriting on the old binder she'd kept. Designs, equations, dreams. I told you I'd finish it, he whispered. His daughter, Emily, stepped beside him. Dad, what happened today? You didn't come home until late. Jake hesitated. Someone powerful realized I wasn't invisible anymore. Emily looked at him with the same fire her mother once had. Good. They should be scared. He smiled faintly. They will be. 2 days later, a reporter called. Mr. Sullivan, is it true Hayes Aerospace stole technology from you and your wife? Jake didn't reveal much. Let's just say the truth always finds air. The reporter published anyway. Within hours, social media was in flames. Justice for Jake. Corporate thieves exposed. Who really invented the engine? Victoria's empire began shaking from its foundations. Inside the company, whispers turned to panic. Investors wanted answers. The board turned hostile. And Brad, always the shark, saw his moment. He barged into Victoria's office. We need to go after him. Sue him. Destroy him. Victoria shook her head. No. We bury the story. We can't bury truth, Brad snapped. We need leverage. He pulled out surveillance he'd obtained illegally. Footage of Jake working late on the engine. We hit him with theft of company property. Victoria's eyes widened. Brad. You broke into security files. For you, he said. But something in her expression shifted. Fear. Not of Jake, but of Brad. Handle it, she whispered. Brad smirked. Always. That was her second mistake. Jake didn't know Brad was coming for him until late one night, when he heard someone rummaging in his garage. He stepped outside quietly. The overhead bulb flickered on, revealing Brad rifling through his tools, snapping photos of engine components, planting a small metal device near the fuel cell. You're trespassing, Jake said. Brad froze, then straightened, smiling coldly. Relax. I'm just making sure you don't spread lies. You're setting me up. Like your wife set up that fairy tale engine. Brad sneered. Jake's fist clenched so hard his knuckles went white. Don't say her name. Brad leaned in, voice dripping venom. She died for nothing, Jake. And once I'm done, so will your reputation. But Brad didn't realize a neighbor's camera had captured everything. Everything. Jake said nothing. He didn't have to. The truth was collecting evidence. The next day police arrived, not for Jake, but for Brad. Not only had he trespassed, but the device he planted was a corporate sabotage tool used for framing employees. The footage was irrefutable. When he saw officers approaching, Brad panicked. I work for the CEO. This is a misunderstanding. But the officers didn't budge. Sir, you're under arrest. Victoria watched from her office window as Brad was shoved into a police car, screaming her name like it would save him. That was her third mistake. Believing loyalty built on fear would hold. Never does. The board demanded explanations. They found Brad's emails, secret payments, schemes. They saw the engine video. They saw the truth. Hayes Aerospace stock collapsed 32% in a day. Victoria's image, once pristine, shattered. She tried to fix it with a press conference, but questions cut like knives. Did your company steal Sullivan's engine? Did you fire him to silence him? Did you authorize Brad's sabotage attempt? Her carefully crafted world was falling apart, and she had no idea how to stop it. Jake hadn't lifted a finger against her, but her own actions had. Meanwhile, Jake stood in a modest warehouse surrounded by a small team of engineers. People who believed in him, not because he had power, but because he had vision. The federal government granted him research funding. Universities offered partnerships. Emily hugged him with pride he hadn't felt in years. You did it, she whispered. No, Jake said softly. We're just getting started. His warehouse became Aurora Labs. The rusted Mustang sat in the corner like an old guardian, humming quietly at night as if Sarah was still inside it, whispering encouragement. Every day, Jake walked past it with gratitude and purpose. And Hayes Aerospace crumbled. Victoria was forced to resign. She gave up her office, her company badge, her corner windows overlooking the bay. And when she walked out for the last time, protesters lined the sidewalk. Thief! Give Jake justice. Return what you stole. Flashes lit her face. Reporters shouted. Security struggled to protect her from the crowd's fury. The woman who once mocked a janitor now walked with her head bowed, the weight of her downfall pressing on her shoulders. She had built her empire on someone else's dreams. And now the world knew. 3 months later, Jake unveiled the first official prototype of the Aurora engine, Mark II. Stronger, cleaner, more efficient than anything the industry had seen. During the live demo, he opened the hood, the light reflecting off polished metal. "This isn't just an engine," Jake told the crowd. "It's a promise. My wife's promise. That ordinary people can change the world when no one believes in them." His voice broke slightly, but just enough. The audience stood, applauding. Emily stepped beside him, wrapping an arm around his back. Reporters pushed forward. "What happened to the people who tried to stop you?" Jake looked at the cameras with a calmness that came from survival. "They learned that truth has a longer memory than power." And the final twist came from the SEC. Brad was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for sabotage, fraud, and corporate espionage. Victoria faced civil penalties, class action lawsuits, and a lifetime ban from serving as an executive. She applied for jobs. No one hired her. Her fall was complete. Her downfall wasn't loud. It was slow, humiliating, and permanent. Exactly the way arrogance deserves to collapse. Across the street from Aurora Labs, Jake stood in the sunlight, watching workers install a new sign. Aurora Innovations. Home of the Sullivan engine. Emily nudged him. Mom would be proud. Jake inhaled deeply, the breeze carrying a hint of motor oil and memory. She always believed the world would see what we built. He paused. "I just never expected it would happen like this." Emily smiled. "Sometimes justice takes the long road." Jake put an arm around her. "Yeah," he said softly. "But it gets there." And behind them, the Mustang, rusted, legendary, unstoppable, glinted in the sun like a badge of honor. The world finally knew whose dream had powered the future. And the people who tried to steal it, they were left exactly where they belonged, in the ruins of their own greed. When the dust finally settled, Jake stood outside Aurora Labs watching workers finish the new sign. The morning sun warmed the metal letters, and for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't dared to name: quiet certainty. Not triumph, not revenge. Just the steady weight of knowing he'd rebuilt his life without bending to anyone's cruelty. Emily joined him, slipping her hand into his. "It's different now," she said softly. Jake nodded. "Because we stopped hiding." He didn't mean the engine. He meant himself. The years of silence, the fear of powerful people, the belief that truth had no place in a world ruled by money. Those pieces had fallen away one by one until only the essential parts remained. What he had now wasn't the past restored. It was something stronger. The knowledge that persistence matters, that the right fight is worth every scar, and that even ordinary people can outlast giants when they refuse to be erased. Behind him, the old Mustang, still dented, still rusted, caught the light like a badge of honor. A reminder that the world may overlook you, laugh at you, or try to break what you built, but real strength doesn't announce itself. Endures. If Jake's story moved you, help it reach more people. Hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales so we can keep bringing powerful stories to life.